President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has met the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. Talks are believed to have included a renewed push to salvage stalled ceasefire talks and improving the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, as well as the return of hostages still held by Hamas. The meeting took place against the backdrop of increasing international pressure on Israel, as Canada and Portugal have joined France and Britain in saying they will recognise or are considering recognising Palestinian statehood if the situation continues and certain conditions are met. Well, let's speak now to our State Department correspondent, Tom Bateman, who joins us from Washington. We haven't heard much directly out of Israel on this meeting between Steve Witkoff and Benjamin Netanyahu yet. What are you hearing there in Washington, Tom?
Well, it's significant that he has travelled to the region because there has been growing pressure on the Trump administration over the conditions in Gaza, over the fact that starvation is now gripping the territory. And President Trump had said in the UK earlier this week that there was, in his words, real starvation. And clearly it has been something that he has been pressed on. And so part of this visit will be around that. And it had been reported in the Israeli media that he would potentially visit one of the sites of the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This is the organisation established by the US and Israel, which operates inside Israeli military zones, that has seen this disastrous impact on the ground where aid seekers have been shot dead, according to eyewitnesses, by the Israeli military, and according to the UN, more than 1,000 people at least killed. And at the same time, we've seen, rampant malnutrition in the Gaza Strip over that period of time, and a lot of pressure on Israel. So I think what Mr. Witkoff reports back will be incredibly important, because he is a trusted voice as far as Mr. Trump is concerned. He's a former New York real estate mogul and a golfing partner of President Trump, who he put into this very high-profile international position, leading negotiations with the Russians and in the Middle East. But the point is, Mr. Trump trusts him, and I think what he says to him after this visit will therefore be extremely important in terms of what happens next.
And briefly, Tom, this new language coming from the US on aid and some pressure coming from prominent MAGA figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene calling for more aid to be brought into Gaza. Might that necessarily have a consequence for Israeli military action? Is the US going to end up putting pressure on Israel over that in order to get more aid in, do you think?
Well, I think the fact that Mr. Trump posted on his Truth Social network this morning, referencing the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip, saying that it was down to Hamas to agree to a ceasefire deal that would, alleviate the suffering, was the implication. But the fact he is referencing it, I think, is very much meant for the intended audience being his MAGA base. I think he's very attuned to where the base is at on key issues. And I think that the fact that you have some key figures, an ultra-loyalist like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like Tucker Carlson, that are really starting to talk about this, both using the word genocide in recent days, he will be very aware that that conversation is happening in his base. And I think what he's doing there is trying to say, look, this is all because of Hamas. They could fix the problem. But of course, his critics are saying it has been the US's unyielding support for the way that Israel has continued the war in Gaza that has led to this situation. So there is pressure on the administration, although its line on this has always been that the solution is getting a ceasefire and hostage release deal. The blame they put for that is on Hamas. Critics of Israel say that Mr. Netanyahu has continually changed the conditions, and that's another reason why they haven't got to this outcome. But at the same time, you have the State Department putting forward some punitive measures now against the Palestinian Authority, so the body that has limited self-governance in the West Bank, basically in response to the fact that this conference was held in New York, that countries are rallying around a potential two-state solution in terms of long-term peace, and some are recognizing a state of Palestine. The US has pushed back really hard on that, but and is by doing that now imposing some sanctions, travel bans on members of the Palestinian Authority.
OK, Tom, thank you very much. Tom Bateman.